Hey everyone, Danette Goodyear here. Hope you guys are doing great. Merry Christmas. 12 days of diamonds. And I got in today. So my name's Danette Goodyear. And I'm married to Crown Diamond Jim Goodyear. And I live in McKinney, Texas, which is a suburb of Dallas. And I love Jesus. I love our church home. I love my family, biological and young living. I am a marine biologist. I am a naturopath and now a business owner. I'd rather be playing tennis than doing anything else. Do y'all know that? I love animals. I love to travel. I have 3 cats and 2 dogs. I love long walks on the beach, preferably by myself because I'm an introvert. And I love good food. So now that you know me, insert glamour shot, I hope you'll stay with me for a few minutes of history and some, hopefully some inspiration for what you have coming up in your life. So, gosh, I want to say a huge thank you to Sandy for putting this all together, creating such a great group of totally amazing and fantastic leaders. Like, I can't even believe the last 2 weeks what's gone over the airwaves or fiber waves or whatever they call those. I'm a biologist, not an engineer. Okay, so you have heard from so many of my amazing leaders already. My new diamonds, the Haggertons, Nicole Dodge, you heard from them early on. Of course, Royal Crown Diamond, April Pointer and Jen Jordan and gosh, in their line, Michelle Skocek. What a great diamond lineage there. We have the Ericksons, the Birchfields and their teams with Jordan Schrant and the Hauks, Monique McLean, Lindsay Moreno, all of their amazing leaders. There are 2 platinums in that line between us. And when they hit diamond, there'll be 15 back-to-back diamonds. That's pretty awesome. And I attribute all that to you guys. Hard work and determination, not quitting and just doing it. So we're going to talk a lot about that tonight. So, lest I forget some other amazing my leaders, phenomenal. Lana Bookout and Melissa Sanchez, Nicole Perez, Vanessa and Tom, Hannah Tallow. Do you guys not love all that? Alyssa Francis, the Dempseys, new diamond Leah Rockwell, Myra and Claudia today. Phenomenal. I'm so proud of you guys. Like I can't even name them all, and I don't want to forget anybody, but my heart is bursting with wild pride and team love. So thank you all for leading so well, for doing such an amazing job, leading with your Young Living lifestyle and sharing what you have found to change your life. So, life-changing things. Let me tell you a little bit about myself, because I keep getting asked about it. Although I think it's insignificant, it is my story, right? So I grew up on the central coast of California, Lompoc, California, if anyone knows where that is. Very small family. I had great parents that taught me how much Jesus loves me and how he meets every one of our needs. My mom's a vegetarian, so we grew up on carrot juice and fruit and veggies and a little meat because my dad eats meat. It was my brother and I, just the 2 of us, until he died of leukemia when he was 7.5 and I had just turned 9. So I too had a very poor immune system, and I would go, and then when I'd get something, I'd get the worst case the doctors had ever seen, right? And I think all of those things just gave me a desire to live a healthy lifestyle. So fast forward many years, I went to UC San Diego for my undergrad and studied biology. And since I was 10 years old, I wanted to be a marine biologist, so that's what I did. I met my amazing husband, Jim Goodyear, in a German class. It was my sophomore year, his freshman year. Yeah, speaking auf Deutsch. And we both studied abroad, actually. I studied in Sweden, and he was in Germany. And that was during our first year of dating, right? So there began the beginning of extra delayed gratification that you'll see woven through my story. We married after we both finished our undergraduate degrees and immediately moved up to Santa Barbara, which was close to my hometown. And he studied at UC Santa Barbara for his graduate degree. I worked 3 jobs to support us, one well paid, and I worked 10 hours a day there in the geology department, working for the professors there, helping with their writing their grants and their computer work and anything they needed. And then I had 2 unpaid jobs on the side that were bolstering my experience for my next gig, right? And so that was when I was recruited out to Oklahoma State for my master's. So that's how we got out of California to the, well, what they say in Texas is God's country. And so I was recruited out there for my master's in anatomy and physiology at the veterinary college. So, you know, Oklahoma is right the hub for marine biology, what you would expect. But it was the professor that I was going there. And so on our 2-year wedding anniversary, on that day, packed up 3 cats in a U-Haul and our 1 car and our little life, and moved to Stillwater, Oklahoma, where Jim dropped me off. And I had nowhere to live and lived in a Motel 6 and couldn't afford that $35 a night with my 3 cats. And they thought I only had 1 cat, by the way. I just told them when they asked what color, I said multicolored because I had a gray, a black and white, and an orange. And I tell you all that because the struggle's real, right? So when people are like, oh, I can't afford that, you know, you can, you know, you're a Crown Diamond. And I'm like, dude, we've done way more than most people should have to in the delayed gratification part. I helped teach the lab anatomy class for first-year vet students, both semesters at Oklahoma State Veterinary College for 4 years, and we had $64 in the bank. And so when Jim had finished his in Santa Barbara, we saw each other one time at Christmas, the year we were apart, so that was year 2 and 3 of our marriage. Saw him at Christmas. And then he moved back, and we literally had $64 in the bank, right? Because I made $800 a month. $400 of that was rent. So I remember one time Jim had moved back not too long before, and he came home one day with a cup of coffee that he bought, and I lost it. He had a 1/20th of everything we had in the bank in that cup of coffee. Yeah. You know, I remember writing a check to our church for $6 because that was 10% of, you know, the $64 that we had in the bank, right? So, you know, and I kept thinking as I'm writing this, God, you're going to have to do a lot with this, you know, knowing that there are such amazing things that you can do. You know, with $5 you can buy a mosquito net that 4 people sleep under, right? Isn't that great? So I didn't want to give $6. I wanted to give 600. I wanted to give 6,000, 600,000. And, you know, I'm still learning to expand my brain and to dream to accommodate God's abundance, right? So I hope you all know that you can't outgive God. So give, because he'll entrust you with more with that. And I tell you these things because I want you to understand. Delayed gratification, right? We never even lived by a budget. People are like, oh, we budget this for entertainment and everything. We never lived by a budget because we didn't have anything to budget. There was no entertainment budget, so we didn't do anything. And we were always busy and working, so what's entertainment, man? Entertainment is falling asleep on the couch at 9 o'clock on a Friday because you're so exhausted, right? And we're still pretty thrifty that way, right? Because, I mean, we only need so much. So you're going to sacrifice something with every decision. So I want you to understand that too. Time, money, education, job choice, choosing to stay home with your kids, you know, whatever it is. So you make the best choice possible for your family and your long-term family support, and understand that everything comes at a cost. So when people say, oh, you know, I really got to focus on my family, I can't do this. Well, you have to understand, why are you doing this? Aren't you doing it for your family in the first place? If you were going to a job or doing, you know, something different, they'd have to come alongside you anyway for that. And why would you think that's any different? Have the cost of your education. Like in grad school, those are your highest earning years, right? they're sacrificed, right? So it's not just the cost of your education, but it's what you're not making that is actually the more significant cost, right? So if I just had, I don't know, a desk job or something like that, I'd be making more than $800 a month at that point, right? So there's so much of that to be had. So anyway, after 4 years of teaching there, I moved to Dallas for a year, and that was 18 years ago. That we did that. We were supposed to move to Florida the following year. I was going to head up the marine biology lab for Florida manatees as an endangered species in St. Petersburg, Florida. But quite a few things had come into our life at that point, and it just didn't seem like the right thing to do. So I actually got trained in 2001 doing electrodermal screening, if you know what that is. And I opened my office in my home for 5 years. And then with one of my diamonds, Shell Carter, opened a offsite office. And then I was there for 9 years. And so during that time, early on, see, that was 01. So in the fall of 02, I was introduced to Young Living by Jim's Aunt Helena. And she sees this, she's going to say, I'm your aunt too. But I have all of our family is involved, both sides of our family. So I differentiate just so that it was Helena Goodyear. So I signed up in January of 03, and I can't remember if it was this night or a week or so before this, but Helena called me and said, hey, Gary's going to be in Dallas-Fort Worth. And I was like, okay. So I didn't know anything about anything. I didn't know anybody. So I went and just snuck in, sat in the back, and I'm listening to Gary, and he is showing on the projector these amazing things all over the world about these oils, how they were done, distilled anciently and things like that. And I was like blown away. Then he put up on the screen this picture of this amazing lavender farm in France. And he said, we just purchased the only American-owned organic lavender farm in Provence. And we're going to allow distributors to go and work at it. And I was like, I am in. Where do I sign up? Because I've had this planner for, I want to say, either 18 or 19 years. And I still use it. Thrifty. You just change the pages, right? So I had my planner there, and I opened it up, and it had this picture right here, which is just a little card. 1998 is the date on the back. And I'd had this in here since 98, looking at it. And every time I'd open it up, I'd say, oh man, someday I'm going to a lavender farm in France, and I don't want to just go visit. I want to work on it, but I don't know what that looks like. And Gary had it up on the screen, what that looked like for me. Then I also have down here the prayer of Jabez, if you're familiar with that, coming out of 1 Chronicles 4, 9 through 10. Oh, that you would bless me indeed and enlarge my territory, that your hand would be with me and that you would keep me from evil. So those two things right there, I was looking at that night, January of 03. So next month is my 14-year anniversary with Young Living. Gary said, people are gonna have to write, why they should go to France. And so one night I sat down and I happened to see it in our little magazine that we used to have. God just totally directed me to it because I hadn't read one before of that. And it said, hey, if you want to go to France, you have to write this letter. So I wrote this letter by midnight, emailed it in, and we did have email back then, but that was about it. And so what happened there is that about 5 weeks before the trip, in April, I got this call that said, you've been chosen to go to France. And I was like, awesome. So there were 13 people to the first week and 14 people scheduled to go the second week, and we were going to work on the farm. And what happened 2 weeks before we left is that the ground war started in Iraq. And if you remember, France and the government of France, and therefore the French people, were really not happy with America. So when I got a call 20 minutes before I left for the airport that day. And remember, I don't know anybody. I don't know where I'm going. I'm just told by an email, like, to show up in Avignon, I think it was, to actually get picked up. Actually, it was Marseille, to get picked up and taken to the farm. And 20 minutes before I left for the airport, I get this call from American Airlines saying they canceled your flight and all this kind of stuff. So long story short, I end up, because I'm like, you don't understand, like, I gotta be in France, and I don't know the people I'm going to meet. Like, I'm supposed to be at this one place at one time. So, you know, when God closes a door, he opens a window, you know that saying? Well, I didn't know if I was like carving out windows that I wasn't supposed to be going through. You know, sometimes you're like, you know, is this supposed to mean that I'm supposed to stay home? But man, I was so determined to go and was so ready. And so I was waiting at the airport for like 6 hours. They found another flight, flew into Paris, and instead of Marseille that I paid a little extra to get to where I was supposed to meet them. And nobody, no trains running, no nothing, because the whole country went on strike, right? Because 8 weeks of vacation isn't enough. So all comes down to only 7 of us showed up that first week, and nobody showed up that second week. So I got to extend my trip to help work on the farm. So what we would do there is we would work by, we had this truck that would be next to us, and we'd dig out these rocks and throw these rocks in the truck. And I had such not a good back all my life. I'd fractured it, you know, in junior high in many places and different things. But man, I was so determined. So I was picking up smaller rocks and pitching them. And then Gary would go with David and work out. And then he'd come back and we'd all make dinner together. And then he would take us up to what I have called the upper room, because it was this upper room where they had yoga in this little chateau in France, right above our Simeon farm. And it was an amazing time. He would teach us for hours, till about midnight, every single night. And I knew it was special, but I didn't know how special. You know, I was hearing things that I'd never heard. You know, what do you do for this thing, right? All the non-compliant stuff that I can't tell you. But it was an amazing time. So all that to say, I owned like 3 oils, and this was before TSA and everything. And people were there with huge, I mean, talking gallon Ziploc bags of oils. And I was like, what is that? These people are like crazy. I think I owned lavender, lemon, and grapefruit, I think, were the 3 oils I owned, and I actually brought them with me. And that was it. So they were crazy, and I got home, and my first commission check I got that month, April of 2003, and it was, I just had Jordan look that up, it was $101.40. And I went to both conventions that next year. We had 2 on different coasts, California and Tennessee. Brought a couple people with me at both those, my family in California, and a couple friends for Tennessee, one of which is platinum now and one a diamond. And that was an amazing time for me, just to see, you know, there were, you know, a few hundred people in that room for convention. So in 2004, I went with my mom up to St. Mary's, and we did the planting, the harvest, and that's where I met my amazing upline, Eldon Niddle. He went to be with the Lord last year, but his incredible wife, Nancy, is still working hard and loving on me and mentoring me still, and their legacy continues in our team. I mean, they were started Young Living with Gary before Young Living was Young Living. Before Gary met Mary, and their mentorship, you know, and for so many on our team, we are so blessed to have them as our upline. I'm forever grateful for both Helena for sharing Young Living with me, and Nancy and Eldon for mentoring me in this business and how to support your team, loving people into this business. And I like to tell people, you know, when they get nervous about sharing, I like to tell them, like, who in this room is like totally ticked off at the person that introduced them to Young Living? Like, no, man, we love our oils. We love all that. So why wouldn't we go out and want to share that, right? So if you're not ticked off at your sponsor and enroller, the person that introduced you to Young Living, then you should have major courage to go out and share the goodness that you love, right? Because you want to be that person for somebody else that says, oh man, I'm so glad Danette shared with me, right? So, do that. Okay, so I ran my more than full-time electrodermal screening office and business, seeing clients for 14 years, and worked my Young Living business part-time. And during that time, I somehow thought I needed to get my naturopathic degree, so I did that too. And then I had some health issues with my neck, and it was crazy. And I was just jonesing to finish that degree to be able to teach more Young Living. So I would share with my clients about Young Living, and the way I did that is the fact that the Young Living products were the only ones I carried in the office that weren't for professional use only, right? The herbal tinctures and the homeopathics, they couldn't just buy those in the store. I had to have those. But I wanted to teach people to take responsibility for their own health. And so that is why I wanted people involved in Young Living. It wasn't so accidental, my business. I mean, I understood the MLM part of it. But I also understood my role in the education part of it, that it wasn't just how to make money, but it was encouraging people to take responsibility for their own health and the health of their own family. So that's where I found the value of sharing Young Living with people. So I tell him, this is the only thing you can get to totally help your family. And there's, a book that you can get and those kind of things. And you can get these at wholesale cost, right? And purchase them yourself and not have to come in the office for those things. So years ago, Young Living would come to Dallas about every year and a half, and we'd have maybe about 50 people or so at these. And there was one Wednesday night, I remember, man, I drove like an hour and a half to get over there, and there were 11 of us in that room. And that included the Young Living corporate staff. This was not that many years ago. This was not total beginning for me. So I saw the need to educate people on our oils, since there wasn't any other education going on in the area, okay? So I first started teaching a class after every convention, right? So I'd teach just literally from my notes. The new research that had come out, the new oil, singular, or supplement, singular, that came out, right? We would get 1 to 2 new products, 1 oil, and maybe another supplement or something like that, product per convention. I just want y'all to let that sink in for a minute. So, yeah, and we were fired up about it. And so I would try and bring the excitement and everything I learned at convention into this little room of, maybe 20-ish people, and they would really be, my members. Then I started holding monthly classes down the hall in my office building, and I did that for about 25, 40 people per month. It was a BYOC kind of deal, bring your own chair. So literally camp chairs and folding chairs people would bring from their car, and we'd sit down and have a class, right? At about 50 people, we had to move to another unused office space across the street that the management graciously let me use. And then we moved to a local library that held about 100. Then we started having, 2.5-ish years ago, 250 to 400 people at these classes. And I had them at a hotel, and it was a single-owned, lower end, I would say, not totally skank, but not a Hilton is what I'm saying. That was close to my office, right? And that was because I was seeing clients, man. So I was seeing clients till 5:30, and I'm talking jamming a rice cake and some almond butter in my mouth and some ningxia red, and flying a few miles to this hotel, unloading all the sound equipment out of my expedition, going in, setting it all up, and class starting at 6:30. And I did that for years because the need was there. So I want you to know, find a need and fill it. If you don't have that in there, don't wait for someone else to do it. Don't wait for your upline to do it. You can do this. Bring your own chair, man. You can start as small as you want, right? But But in that, I also wanted to be very duplicable. I was always very conscientious and still am. I don't do, ginormous things. I want everything I do to be very duplicable. So that includes our current monthly classes that is at a place that is still affordable, that, we can charge, very minimal for that. And so everything I do, I want to be duplicable, because I want to duplicate the good things, right? Because everything you do will duplicate, good and bad, right? So find the need and fill it. So I started having some amazing leaders rise up, as you heard, and I'd get them to teach to help grow them, and like, who wants to hear from me all the time? Yawn. So that was great, to change that up. And I also started holding a business class after the main class, so we could teach those that wanted to learn more about the Young Living business opportunity and how to run a business, right? So I figured people were already out, they already had a babysitter or whatever. So instead of doing another night that they had to carve out of their schedule, I'd rather have them carve that schedule out to be teaching someone else. So we still hold a business class after our main class. And we still hold these classes, and I use them as originally intended, right? To educate on our products, to allow people to bring people to it, to have somewhere for them to bring to be educated and hopefully be inspired and excited about Young Living and products and opportunity, and the team that they get to be around with that excitement. But significant goals for our team growth and development are now also certainly my focus. So I want to allow builders to talk to more than a living room full of people, right? I want them to get out of their comfort zone, like I've had to get out of mine. I want them to see that they can do it. I want to allow them exposure to the local and abroad team. We record these classes so they can send them to their teams. And I want to expose our attendees to different leaders, right? And personalities and talents and skill sets, because they might not relate to me for whatever reason, or like me or anything like that. But man, they're gonna love this. They're gonna love this leader. They're gonna really connect with the story of this leader. So I want that to allow so many different things, so that people understand that there's room for everybody in this business, right? And so that they can learn. So be encouraged that you can do Young Living part-time and still be successful, right? People have the wrong impression. They think that you need to do this full-time once you hit, I don't know, executive or something, and that's just so not true. It may take you longer. But what else in my no trust fund baby life was gonna give me the lifestyle of, freedom, not having a boss, freedom in my schedule, like when and I loved what I did, but seeing clients every day, like we were booked out 6-8 months in advance. So I had to know like a year in advance on anything I was gonna do, right? So that was kind of hard to do. So how much, not having a cap on how much money I can make. I mean, if I wasn't sitting at that table screening, bills weren't getting paid. So how great that Young Living, with the duplication efforts, provides that for us. And it also doesn't cap how much money I can give, which is my favorite part. So the answer for me is nothing that I know of would fulfill all of those requirements for me. So no marine biology job, because when I was looking to go down to Florida, that job was a GS3 or 4 as a government, job, and it was probably, I don't know, 36, 38,000 a year with a master's degree. Before I got out of my graduate degree, I was offered a job at the Smithsonian Institute, my favorite museum, the Natural History Museum, in the mall of Smithsonian museums in DC. And it was a great job. I was so excited about it, but I was gonna be making $35 a year. And even at that, I was like, how do you live in DC? And we were so much further away from our family in California. And so it just wasn't what God had planned for us. So as I mentioned before, we have amazing leaders and builders and members on our team. And so November of 2013, I know you've heard this from my three friends. But after our amazing gold and platinum, what used to be called the Master Leader Retreat in Ecuador, I found myself in the Guayaquil, Ecuador airport, sitting at a table with two of my great leaders, April Pointer and Alyssa Francis, and one of our crossline dear friends, Melissa Pepping. I mean, what a great leader. You guys learn from them. How amazing were the three of them. So we sat there and we were trying to figure out, we're setting a plan to combine forces to educate our teams, to get them ranking up as well as us, right? Because like Zig Ziglar says, you help people get what they want and you will automatically get what you want, right? So we all understood that. So YL Fast Track was born right there, and we opened up our calls to all of Team Living because we were crossline with Melissa, right? And so we figured if we're doing it crossline between hours, you know, why not open it up to everybody? And there really wasn't any training like this from corporate or, you know, anyone else at that point. So what did we do? We found a need and we filled it, right? So, and we changed to fulfill the changing needs of our teams, right? It used to be only a phone call, and now it's Facebook Live, and, you know, I got to put makeup on or whatever to do those calls, right? Used to be I could hide behind a telephone. Yeah. So anyway, love my YL Fast Track with you guys. It's my pleasure every month to be with you guys on that, and all of us. So I was working hard for Diamond that fall of 13 is when that was. And Jim and I lived very separate lives. We had very demanding jobs. I lived at my office. He was on the road with his job 4 to 5 days a week for many years. And he was at the top of his tech company for what he knew was going to be a closing chapter of that, right? Because everything flows downhill, and closer you are to the top, you know, you're next, kind of a thing. So when he came to me one morning, I was getting ready to leave for the office, and he came to me and said, you know, can I take one of the diffusers up to my office, and can you give me whatever's strongest for stress? And if you've met Jim Goodyear, you know he's you know, pretty introverted, and so I say that meaning he just doesn't talk a lot about work and if he's stressed and things like that. So I knew, wake up call, this is getting bad. So I gave him some oils, and I thought, well, dang, I guess I've got to be hitting Diamond like soon. So that was April. So with my amazing team and those 4th and 5th legs there, I hit in May of 14, literally days after Jim left his job. And Jim was a great product user. Anything I would put in his hand supplement wise or hand him bottle of oil wise, he would use it. But he didn't really take responsibility for his own health that way, right? Because he had me, right? He'd say, hey, I need something for this, and I'd give it to him, and he didn't even know what he was taking or, you know, putting on him half the time. Because that was my thing, right? He had his thing, I had my thing. And so, as bad duplication, by the way. So Jim, when he left that job, he needed to decompress, you know, after his stressful years in the tech industry. And he has a master's degree in modern German history, right? The ultimate introvert's subject. So he had in Seinfeldese, the Summer of Jim. And so he went with me on the Diamond Retreat in 14. And that was to the south of France, and at the farm where I'd started 11 years earlier. And then we ended up in Paris, and we stayed 2 extra days in Paris. And so that last night I thought, all right, at dinner, I hadn't talked to him the whole time about like, what do you think? You know, how are you liking it or anything like that. So what I didn't know, what he tells people, and I learned when I heard him tell somebody, was that he was talking to all the men on the trip, which weren't a ton at that point, but a lot more than there had been before, and seeing how they fit in the Young Living life and the business. So that night at dinner, I was like, so summer Jim's got to come to a close, and so what are you going to be doing? And he's like, I find the Diamond life is the life for me. And so he said, you know, I think I'd like to join you in Young Living. And I'm like, well, all right, so okay, let's do this. So we got home, and he put me on Facebook, and like I had not been on Facebook up until that point, right? So this was September of 14, And so I do refer to myself as the last diamond dinosaur because I hit diamond without any Facebook. So just to let you know that it is possible. You do not have to do this any certain way, right? So I was still working crazy hours at my office and working with our teams or teaching like 7 to 10, 10:30, almost every night. So I sold my business last year to an amazingly capable technician, and my amazing team, we hit crown 2 hours before I walked out of my office for the last time. And that was May 29th of last year. And it was amazing, but I worked my body into the ground. And Reds have a tendency to do that. If you don't know that yet. I don't recommend it. It was too long of a hustle season for me, right? We should have these seasons of hustle, but it was, you know, many, many years of nonstop. But again, like, what else could I do to have that kind of freedom and pleasure of working with such amazing purpose-driven people, right? Day in and day out. So, man, just love you guys. Thanks. Welcome to Facebook. Yeah, it's still a learning process. Thanks, Michelle. Rank advancement. What rank do you want to be by convention? That's my question to you, right? If you advance just one rank by every convention in 9 years, you will be a Royal Crown Diamond, right? So that's faster than I am still doing it for sure, right? So you can do it faster if you want. So many people in this group have done it so fast now, but on the other side, you don't have to, right? And your team is looking for you to advance. I remember Nancy telling me, yeah, you really need to hit diamond. Your team really needs that. And I was like, that's weird, but it's true. So your team needs to see you advance as well. So I encourage you to do that. It doesn't have to look like anybody else's journey. You've heard many times from amazing leaders in here not to compare yourself, because that is just setting you up for feeling horrible and derailing you. Do not get derailed by that, right? I also want to encourage you as a giving goal. As you're setting your goals, I want you to set, okay, what's that rank advancement? Get that income disclosure statement out and look at that. Where do I want to be? And for many of us, it's not all about the money, but it does give us a place, a checkpoint, right? Where we want to be, mile markers, right? So when we look at that, where do you want to be? In that giving goal, I want you to set a giving goal too. I want to encourage you to help lead and teach your teams to be generous. Financial abundance is crazy in this business, the possibility of that. Something I never, ever, I mean, we're supposed to say, oh yeah, I always knew that. I always dreamed, I was going to be big. And, I'm pretty practical. And so, I'm still learning how to dream that. And so you don't have to be at that spot right off the bat, okay? So it can allow you to do things you've only dreamed of in the past, right? Find things you're passionate about to support. And in that giving part, give of your time. Find things, whether it's yourself, things that you want to help others with, or an already kind of set opportunity for you. So like, I've wanted to work with our adult special needs ministry at our church. For the last 5 years, they've had what they call the Anthem Art class. And so I've dabbled a little bit over the years in watercolors and art. And so I really wanted to do this with them. You're teaching them life skills through this time, but I never had the opportunity to be there on a Tuesday morning. So 2 months ago, I started as one of the mentors and helpers in the Anthem Art class for special needs adults. We have about 30 in there. So it's that time, right? So how can I better use my time in my office to work more efficiently so that I can make the time to go and serve, right? Homeless ministries, taking care of animals at shelters, going on Young Living Foundation philanthropy trips, going on, mission trips, whatever that looks like, a few hours a week or a month at your favorite local charity, right? And I want to encourage you to serve with your teams. Nothing knits you together like serving alongside people, right? So think about the guys that just came back from Nepal building schools and houses together and experiencing that. They are knit together for life, right? We're very involved with the journeys in Feed My Starving Children, which is a fantastic ministry, and they do what's called a mobile pack. So they will come here and we will pack meals that will go out to, we'll pack 1 million meals in 2 days and with 2-hour shifts. And so I love to invite our local team members to come and join us in that. Because how fun is it to serve together and have purpose together, right? Encourage generosity in your team. Make just a few hours, right? So find a need and fill it, right? People in your community and around the world are praying for an opportunity. They are praying for help, and you may be the person that God's calling to fill that need, right? So I want you to build your business to the top so you can give hilariously. That is what the Bible says when it says be a cheerful giver. The word cheerful there, directly translated, means hilariously. I want you to be able to give hilariously. Build your members up and edify them to enable them to reach their goals, right? Sometimes we have to live on other people's belief until ours actually gets there. So it reaches that point. Build a team that is loyal to our unprecedented product line, right? That they love it so much that they can't not talk about it because they have experienced wellness, purpose, and abundance because of their relationship with Young Living and their relationship with you, right? So find a need and fill it. I am just so thankful you guys joined me tonight. Thank you for being with me. It's my pleasure to be in the company of such great speakers and leaders that you've heard. Hope you have a Merry Christmas, and see you guys at convention. Have a great day.